NFL offseason never stops. Schedule release coming up later this week. There is not a league in professional sports that does a better job of occupying the calendar than the NFL. They can find something that you can be interested in, watch, consume, talk about all year long. And that's certainly the case right now as the draft is in the rearview mirror. Those contracts starting to roll out and teams now starting to figure out where they can address needs outside of the draft. And Jarvis Landry is probably looking for a new home. There are multiple reports today on the Twitterverse that the door for Jarvis to go back to Cleveland has been closed, and he is looking for a new employer. Question for you is, I guess we'll start with Jarvis. Does it make sense for Jarvis to go to the New Orleans Saints?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he'd be automatically top 3 receiver automatically in that room. I think you could possibly put him in that slot and feel really good about what you have there with Michael Thomas and Olave. Yeah, so I would say that window's definitely open.
Does it make sense for the Saints to go after Jarvis Landry?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's a 5-time Pro Bowler. He's going to bring that veteran presence in your locker room. You got the receiver to take the top off the defense, and now you got two guys who can carve people up underneath, and Michael Thomas and Jarvis. I still think he's a very talented receiver. Obviously, last year dealing with injuries, not the most productive season he's had in his career. But I think, going to a new team, going to a new spot, getting a fresh start, and obviously being healthy, I think that's going to go a long way for him. And I think, yeah, that could happen with the Saints.
Is his game too similar to Michael Thomas's?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think, to me, it's about guys who can get open, and that's never going to go out of style. And if you can get open, score touchdowns, convert first downs, the more of those guys you can have, the better. And you got obviously the rookie that's going to stretch the field. So, yeah, I think if there was a situation where you didn't have Olave in that receiving room, then I don't know if I would love it as much. But you got a guy who can stretch the field, and now you got other guys who can get open. I like that.
Okay, I tossed all that to you. I don't disagree with really much of what you said. If the Saints signed Jarvis Landry, they would have turned a gross weakness into a real strength. If you've got Michael Thomas, who's a potential All-Pro, Jarvis Landry, as you mentioned, a perennial Pro Bowler who set some rookie records and has been really productive when healthy everywhere he's gone, and then a first-round pick in Chris Olave, plus you now bump Marquez Callaway way down the line and Deontay Hardy way down the line, and those guys can fill their roles. You would have an excellent receiver room if you did that. My question for Jarvis is, do you want to come maybe be the third option? I mean, is that what you want to do? And I'm not saying that I know that Chris Olave is better than Jarvis Landry and that Jarvis would fit behind him, but it's possible. And so if I'm looking at this from Jarvis's perspective and I'm saying, okay, might be the third option, and my quarterback's Jameis Winston, and they don't have Sean Payton anymore. How attractive is that? And I think that you could ask some real questions about that as opposed to going to a place that maybe has a legit one, but is looking for somebody to work the slot and maybe has a quarterback that you're more comfortable with. I mean, I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm just trying to look at this entire thing, and I'm looking at it from Jarvis' perspective. Yeah, it's from home and far from home, and I can, that's great. But is it the best spot for me professionally? I have my doubts.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Jarvis, yeah, if you're talking about for him particularly to have the best receiver season, yeah, you want to go to a situation, obviously, with a more proven quarterback and obviously a more successful quarterback and probably a quarterback that's not coming off a major knee surgery. So I think for Jarvis, yes, if you're kind of looking at it from that route. But I think at this situation with the receiver market and really what's out there in the draft already going by, opportunities aren't going to be, everywhere you turn your shoulder. I think you got to look at, see kind of what's there and kind of what's, being offered and what's out there. And I think if the Saints are a team that's offering and giving you an opportunity to play, if I'm Jarvis, I wouldn't rule that out.
I think Tyron basically said, look, I'm going home. That's it. It's the only visit he took. Just make the money work and we have a deal. Do you think Jarvis is wired like that, where he's made some cash? Obviously, would he prioritize coming here to play for the Saints as opposed to finding just the biggest payday?
I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Jarvis exactly about that, but from what I've known from him, I think if the situation makes him and his family happy, I think that's the direction he's got to go in. Rather, if the money is there, great, but if not, then the situation is probably going to work best for me and my family. I'll take that, but I'm not exactly sure. But I'd probably say he'd go to the best situation.
I don't know, Jarvis. I loved interviewing him when I covered the team. He always gave great answers and always just played so hard and was such a great, backbone of a team. And I just wonder if he doesn't want to find someone that he knows has a great chance to win. You were in Miami, go up to Cleveland, you think you've kind of put this team. I mean, Cleveland on paper looked pretty good over the last couple of years, and it just never worked out, which is not surprising because it's Cleveland. But maybe you look around. I mean, the Saints. Do you feel like that's a team that's going to have a real chance to win this coming year? I mean, I can hear the argument. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it, but I can hear it. I'm looking elsewhere, maybe trying to find a spot where I'm almost a shoe-in for the playoffs.
I mean, to me, that's why I love the NFL, the parity of it all. I mean, there's always a couple teams a season that you think are probably a couple moves away or a couple years away, and they make that charge to the Super Bowl or throughout the playoffs. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the Jaguars with Bortles at quarterback. They made it to AFC. Mark Sanchez made it to a couple AFC championship games. I mean, you just want to be playing the right brand of football with a good team around you. And I think for the Saints, they do have a good team. They do have talented pieces, and they're probably a few pieces away for people to be saying favorites and Super Bowl champs. But to me, they're talented enough to get hot and make a run.
I can just imagine Odell on the phone like, dude, you can get out of Cleveland and you can win some stuff. I can see that kind of conversation. Like, man, we tried it there. It's just not going to work there. Find another slant. Find another place to go make it work. And so, was Jarvis as good as a teammate, as hard a worker as it looked like from the outside?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think, that started, from his first days on campus. And I remember him and Odell sneaking into the building long after hours. And, I'm talking 12, 1 at night, going in there to catch balls, when, everyone's sleeping. And just seeing that transfer over to, just his, day-to-day, life in that building of going through workouts, going through meetings, going through, getting that extra rehab and taking care of your body. Like, we're talking an 18-year-old at this time. And so to see that, for him to go on to be a 5-time Pro Bowler and continue to have the success he's had, it's no shocker to me because the guy he is in that locker room and outside of it, he's been doing that for a very long time.
My favorite Jarvis Landry story is we used to go out to practice, and quite honestly, as I've said many times, going out to practice for 20 minutes doesn't give you a ton of information. And I try not to oversell things that we see. If you go out there and you're like, they can't keep this guy out the field, or it's 20 minutes. They're running around cones. They're running through bags. They're popping sleds. It's just not a ton you can draw from it other than, that guy's hurt. He can't practice or whatever. But one of the things I noticed when I was out there in 2011, Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee were the first group running through with the quarterbacks. They had Reuben Randall, and they had Kadron Boone and James Wright, and you had Odell, and you had Jarvis, and there were a number of receivers out there. And I remember watching Jarvis, and it seemed like he always went with Mettenberger. And so I paid attention the next day, and then I saw him change spots in the line one day. And I went, he's doing that on purpose. So we got to interview him. He was a freshman that year, so we didn't get to interview freshmen. That was a lesser rule. But the next year, in spring, I went up to Jarvis and said, you always went with Mettenberger. Did you do that on purpose? He was like, I didn't play that much last year. I knew I was going to be playing a lot this year, and Met was going to be our quarterback. So, I wanted to go with Met. I was like, that is making good use of practice time. I don't know if it's what the coaches want you to do, because maybe you could help if you got some reps with Jefferson and Lee, who were the starting quarterbacks and the ones who played. But it was wise. And I noticed it, and he laughed when I asked him the question. He was like, "Yeah, I did do that."
Yeah, no, look, that's the inside, man. Jarvis is probably one of the more smart players that I played with, man. He knows the game like a quarterback in and out. That's why he's such a great leader out there. He knows what he's supposed to be doing. Why he's supposed to be doing it, and seeing him and Met, have some of the bigger, craziest catches I've seen in LSU history. Both Arkansas games, you line both of those up to me that you can put those against any other catches in LSU history. And that's what, the rapport that those two had just from working so much, day in and day out, long before we ever start playing games.
So the two you're talking about, the first one, if you put on the tape up in Fayetteville, which was the first time LSU had been to Fayetteville in a long time, they always played that game in Little Rock, and he makes that one-handed catch in the back of the end zone before the half. And it was a great catch, but what you don't see in the video is that it's freezing cold. Yeah. I mean, really cold up there in for us to go up there in Fayetteville, and he makes that one-handed catch. The other one you're talking about was the next year in Tiger Stadium. It was one where Met tore his ACL, and he ripped it down the middle, and Jarvis climbed over the back of an Arkansas defender and basically caught it through the Arkansas defender on the throw where Met tears his ACL before Anthony Jennings has to come in the game. Yeah, two of the best catches I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. And look, I was on the field for one of those, and the other one I was on the sideline for, and I don't know which one that got me out of my seat more because I was just not expecting to see anything like that. And it's crazy because you see him and Odell do that every single day in practice. They're doing some sort of ridiculous one-hand catch, but you see them pull it out on game day like that, man. It's definitely remarkable, and you never forget stuff like that.
So we'll see. Jarvis Landry, black and gold. Is it a possibility? I don't know that it makes a ton of sense for Jarvis. I think the Saints would be wise to do that, turn your wide receiver room into a real strength, and all of a sudden you'd have an offense that's got some really, really potent weapons around Jameis Winston and try to make things as easy as you possibly can for him.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt and Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.